Hello, everyone. Welcome back to StarSound Speaks. This is episode 242 with your host, Irlianna of StarSound Astrology. Oh my goodness, this, I have agita trying to explain this week. Hoi, hoi, hoi. Oh, no, I really don't have agita, but I do have to say I have anxiety, which I always have before a podcast, but this one is like, ugh, this is the biggest week, right? This is the epic, life-altering, changing new chapter beginning for all of us when Pluto enters Aquarius. But before I get started with that and the rest of the week's transits, I just want to say, if you don't know me, hello, my name's Irlianna, and I am a Hellenistic or traditional astrologer using whole sign houses. And I also blend this with modern astrology. Okay, so as we go, let's get started. Before I get any further, I have to say, you remember last week when I said how Mercury, with Mercury squaring Mars, that final square, Neptune and Mars Neptune square, right? That can bring all and Mercury in Pisces, just all sorts of wonky. Well, the adventure with my bank account has been resolved. It was just very crazy, but they did locate my second bank account. It came out of the Piscean virtual space or no space and kind of landed in my bank account, and everything is fine. But yes, it was an interesting experience. So if you had anything going on this past week with that, just know that anytime Mercury's in Pisces, you're always going to get the wonky wonk. It's just the way it is. But we can, of course, lean into the dreamy meditative side of it, and it certainly gives great benefits. So anyway, moving on. Mercury will finally leave this very interesting, we shall say, it's an exile in Pisces, and it goes into Aries, perky little, strong, bold, courageous, and often argumentative Aries. On Sunday, we start the week, Sunday, March 19th, Mercury ingress into Aries, which is kind of like, do we ever get a stop from the arguments? Mars in Gemini since August, and then as soon as leaves, it's like getting ready to leave, then Mercury jumps in. But luckily, this is a quick little thing. Mercury ingress in Aries. Yes, could it be arguments, argumentation and arguments with our siblings and our neighbors and our cousins and in-laws or just ideas? Yes, it can. But the good news is that we know this, and we can steer ourselves towards speaking our truth, without arguing, right? Without clobbering somebody, just to be bold and courageous and speaking our truth. That would be a really good way to orient ourselves. And Aries also is, when you think about the word courage, it comes from the Latin from the French, cœur, the heart. So to have courage is to be centered in one's heart. So if you think of it that way, instead of just being, the rough and tumble argumentative side of Mars, if we can think of it as Mars as courageous and proactive, for being proactive with our speaking, what we can be constructive rather than destructive. So we could use the energy that way to be passionate around our ideas. Jupiter, it will be joining Jupiter, it was at the end of the month. Yeah, by March 28th. So really about speaking one's truth and being one's truth and finding one's truth and one's divine God self, God goddess self, whatever you want to call it. Very much indicated. Anyway, moving right along, Monday, March 20th. Happy spring, happy fall if you're in the southern hemisphere. This is the Aries ingress. So it's the equinox, so equal amounts of daylight and nighttime. It will happen at 5:24 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So just adjust your, have we had it with our clock adjusting? Adjust for your time zone. Now in the East Coast here, we are back in the States. We have gone to daylight savings. So I'm still getting used to all this, the circadian rhythms. It takes a little bit to settle in. But anyway, Monday, March 20th, Aries ingress. Very interesting chart. Let me show you what that looks like for the US. So here it is, the chart for Washington, D.C. And as we can see, it is in the 8th house, 0 degrees Aries, which is, of course, the first, the first degree of the zodiac sign, right, is Aries. So here is 0 degrees. Of course, it's a critical degree. So you could look at this chart and say, okay, this is like the weather for the season, for this, until we get the Cancer ingress, right? Cardinal signs, changes of the seasons. But this one can be read for the entire year as well as just for the season. So we have a sun in the 8th and a combust Mercury. The ruler of the sun is exalted in Aries, so it gets a lot of support for being in Aries. The Mars is the ruler of the ingress, of course, as it always is, and Mars is in Gemini in its final stage. Mercury is under the beams of the sun. He can't be seen. He's just completely obliterated. Now, he has been purified in this past week's, the purification ceremony, the Mercury Kazemi. He's been reborn and reprogrammed. Hopefully has, our minds filled with compassion, forgiveness, and beauty, and bhakti, devotion to the divine. That would be the highest purpose of that reprogramming that took place on Wednesday. And so, having been reborn, now he's learning, he's emerging as, this purified, reprogrammed self, right? Where we can carry that divinity into our daily life on Earth and into our physical embodiments, Mercury and Aries, right? So, so yes, I would say, this is the promise, of that. Now, it is co-present, as you can see, with Jupiter, and it will, like I said, at the end of the month, it will be lining up. So that'll be, certainly that passion on steroids. But I also want to say too, the recent conversation with with this Silicon Valley Bank, 8th house rules banking and banks and finances and other people's money and trusts and estates and, things, stocks, bonds, all of that. And so with that, and for the USA chart, with that, I think we haven't seen the end of it, with, not to scare anybody or anything or be a downer, but just to be real. I don't think we've seen the end of it with this whole Silicon Valley Bank, and the closure, and it's certainly speculation and maybe some underhandedness. When you think about in terms of the Mars being the ruler, Mars in Gemini and late degrees, they're in for Washington in the 10th house. So there could be some authority figures that may have done some underhanded stuff. I know I was reading a little bit about it with the stocks and bonds, where, they put all their money into bonds, not to get into this whole thing, but they were investing like very heavily in the bond market. And then when the inflation happened, it was just started getting scary, and they were basically trying to cover themselves. And of course, you always had to be careful, because if there's a bank run, you don't have enough money to cover all the deposits and all that stuff. So there could be some revelations that could be making people very upset and angry, around the law, and maybe underhandedness with the legal oversight, we could say, because Jupiter being there in the 8th house there for the chart for the USA and Washington. So I think we will still be dealing with the aftermath of that, and maybe it's like heads may roll. We could see that for sure, happening. Of the word I'm hearing is regulatory. Some regulatory measures that, hopefully, out of this, of course, making these adjustments to avoid any kind of, further conflict. But yeah, it's not over yet. The other thing I want to say too is just about, in a mundane chart, and the sun in Aries in the 8th, I also see, the part of fortune is pretty close to Regulus, part of fortune in Leo, 26 Leo in the 12th house. So, we could be just seeing, I'm just wondering about President Biden, in Harris, and we could be seeing changes in leadership. And so just leaving it at that. Yeah, there's many indicators, and as you know, I've been talking about this since the 2020 election. It's been 2.5 years. There could be changes here. We could be seeing she may have to step up, you know, to take certain things in a different direction. And so changes in her position and his, and yeah, so endings and beginnings. Next month is our, you know, we have the next eclipse in solar eclipse at the end of April. This, which brings us to this new moon, which is going to be happening. The new moon is going to be on Tuesday, March 21st. So the day after the spring equinox, or the fall equinox if you're in the south. Day after that, the sun is exalted, and it's a 0 degrees 49 minutes. So the new moon happens almost immediately after the equinox. So there's a very bold new beginning that's indicated here. It's in the bounds of Jupiter. Well, Jupiter is all about expansion and, you know, and confidence and optimism. So this one brings a lot of hope and confidence and optimism about when things, say with that 8th house, you know, Aries ingress, you know, things may fall away, but then new things come up, bold new ventures, bold new directions in leadership and in resources, and the resources and shared resources of others, like having hope and optimism about all of these things, sharing our resources and sharing truth and discovering what is in honoring our authentic selves. You could also say many different facets to this. Mercury is combust for that new moon and in mutual reception with Mars in the 10th. So I would say we may be laying our plans, but and our new ideas, but we may not be seeing them because Mercury is under the beams of the sun. We wouldn't be seeing them certainly right away, or even at the first quarter moon. It's not until almost the full moon that we might be seeing the fruits of the things and the new goals that we're laying down. Certainly Mercury rules commerce and industry and retailing, and not just communications and writing, but all of these other things. And so networking and things. So maybe bold new ventures in networking, but just give ourselves a little time for that, because with Mercury under the sun, let it get out of the sun. It's got to get out 17 degrees away before you start seeing the fruits of that. So that really wouldn't be until about April 3rd. Is about the time when Mercury will finally emerge, and we'll be able to see him as evening star. And so when he comes out of the beams of the sun, then those plans will be more visible out in the world. And that's actually just 3 days before the full moon. So that's just how it rolls. All right. Anyway, 2 days later, dun, 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 Pluto leaving finally after, you know, 15 years in the sign of Capricorn. This is the big thing of the year, the ingress we've all been talking about for years and waiting for. Pluto moves from Capricorn into Aquarius. He was in Capricorn for 15 years. He's in Aquarius for 20. I know, it's like, you're gonna be old by the time this is, I know, this is Pluto. It rules an entire generation of people. It speaks to broad reprogramming and transformation of our collective, of society, of generations. So Pluto is still in the domicile of Saturn, right? It's not Saturn in earthy, materialistic Capricorn. It's Saturn in, you know, the Aquarian aspect of Saturn is ideas. It's air sign, so it's ideas and intellect, and it's intelligence and artificial intelligence and ancestral intelligence, and, you know, how do we move the wisdom of our ancestors, and we move that forward to create a society that where everyone shares, where everyone feels their individual freedom, and a democracy which takes care of everybody, which allows everyone to flourish and sustain themselves on healthy boundaries, and boundaries that are founded on Aquarian principles of humanitarian ideals. This is what is going to be taking up our world conversation for 20 years. No big deal, right? Yeah, huh. Anyway, where that occurs in your chart, of course, you're going to want to take note, because that's the area of your life that's going to be completely upended and transformed. The old will leave, that is no longer useful. It's like the baby tooth coming up. You know, it serves its purpose for a while, but eventually the new adult tooth that's sustainable comes up in place. And that shedding process, yes, it's painful, but it gives us, as we embrace it and move with it, we allow the old worn out structures to fall away, and then the new take over. So think of that baby tooth. Anyway, that baby tooth is the 0 degrees is always critical. So we're going to be looking at Pluto and Aquarius. Here are the dates for the next year and a half. Well, 24 months or something. What is a year and a half? 20 months. Okay. So for 20 months, so it's a little more than a year and a half, we're going to have Pluto at the 0 degree point. So March 23rd, it's at 0 degrees. It goes back. It'll be there for what, a week or two with 0. Pluto's so dang slow. It only moves like 2 degrees a year, right? It's just very, very, very slow. March 23rd, it will also be back at 0 degrees June 11th. And then January 20th, it'll go back into Capricorn right in the end of the year. Then it'll swerve back into Aquarius next January 20th of 2024. And then September 1st, 2024, and finally November 19th, 2024, right before Thanksgiving of next year, it will be at 0, and that'll be the last time it'll be at 0, and it'll start moving forward into the sign of Aquarius. So for the next 20 months, it's going to be hovering at that threshold. This is something I talked about in depth with Ari Moshe Wolf, so please do listen to those 2 episodes I did with him several months ago. They're amazing, incredible, brilliant soul. We will feel hope. We will, I can almost guarantee it. After I listened to him, I just felt so hopeful about this evolution of humanity that is at our doorstep, and what directions are we going to take that are going to really serve us? How is it that we can be in the now and allow all these outrageous evolutionary potentials to unfurl on their highest? So go watch that, or listen to it again if you haven't, if you've already listened. It will give you hope. Anyway, yeah, and lots of great opportunities for, expanding our consciousness. So that's Pluto into Aquarius. If you think about it too, here we are at the 29th degree of Aquarius, and the 29th degree of Capricorn, 59 minutes. And what was the bookend of this? When Pluto is at 0 Capricorn, that's when we had Lehman Brothers and the mortgage crisis. And not that we want to remember all that, but all these institutions, too big to fail, they failed. And that whole complete restructuring of the corporate sector, of the economy, which is what Saturn and Capricorn represents, leaders, power leaders at the top, CEOs, and all of that. So all of this restructuring that has taken place, that has been all this, the mortgage crisis, these people who never went to jail, and all of these bigwigs and stuff. So all the shenanigans, the underhanded shenanigans that took place over so many years, that were all exposed. And you want a new society, you want to transform society, great. You got to look under the hood here of what, stinky dynamics in the corporate world, and also in our own families. And I would say genealogy, looking at the pain body and society and all that. Black Lives Matter being women, the Me Too movements, 2 very, very great examples of, what it takes to heal the pain body about women and the Black community, long-standing, toxic conditioning of society, of how things have to be because we all thought they had to be. But of course, this gave us an opportunity, and is giving us an opportunity to regenerate and renew and create new foundations that are honoring the divine feminine, that are honoring the healing aspect of of our society, and activating that potential for healing. So anyway, yeah, so when you think back, it's interesting, 0 degrees, 29 degrees, these are both the beginning and the ending, the alpha and the omega, the critical degrees. So now we are moving into Aquarius. Well, certainly we got 20 years to unravel that one. So anyway, yeah, that'll be happening starting March 23rd, which is Thursday. And then we finish the week. The final thing is I'm telling you, like we have to have a block party or something, or some big festival. I don't know what. Mars finally getting out of Cancer. I mean, finally entering Cancer and getting out of dang Gemini. It's been there since August. Like, enough already. It's usually like a 6-7 week transit. It's been 7 months. And so we're all like done with it. We've learned our lessons, Mars. Okay, thank you very much. We've seen the idea of listening and delving into having curiosity around differing points of view. Great, now we take that forward. Mars going into Cancer. Technically, Mars is in the moon's domicile. The moon rules women, nurturing, family, security, home. So Mars in the moon's domicile, even though it's in it's considered in its fall, it doesn't really feel like it has a whole lot of support. But I want to really impress upon all of us how important Mars in Cancer can do great things. As I often give the example of Michael Phelps, he has Mars in Cancer. What did he do with a fall on Mars? He jumped in a damn swimming pool. It's a water sign, right? He became a warrior, Mars, in the water, a warrior in the water, and he won. So Mars is about competition and winning. What did he win? Like 24 medals. He's got the most medaled Olympic athlete in history. And still is, and might always be. Who knows? But anyway, yeah, so we can do great things with this. So March 25th to May 20th is when Mars will be in the sign of Cancer, working its potential for healing, for being strong and standing up for women. Women, people who have like prominent Mars and Cancer are often like domestic violence activists, or who help women, or batter women, or stand for their comfort, stand for their security. So this is an opportunity for all of us to stand for that part of ourselves that needs sweetness and nurturing and kindness and all things Cancerian. And cookies, let's face it, Cancer, the kitchen, cooking, the meals, home, like maybe you want to orient yourself to make cookies, right? When life gets, I don't know. I do know. These are just ideas. So I hope that, yeah, we might feel the fight that we have to stand up and be passionate and bold and courageous around our own comfort and the comfort of others. So constructive, not destructive. That is the Mars way, the high road of Mars. Yes, there is a high road. And so, yeah, that's it for this week. Yeah, quite a week. Like I said, this is a life-altering change that's occurring, not just because we have this new moon in this new sign, and which has huge implications for our government, our United States government, new leadership, new ways of leading, uncovering, letting, reprogramming, certainly our Pluto in Aquarius, huge shift. And then Mars going into Cancer. So, wow. Yeah. What a week. I don't know. I mean, I fretted for hours putting this to be able to turn on the recording button, because I'm like, God, this Virgo thing about having to be perfect. I just realized, okay, you say what you say, you put it out there, you gotta let it go. Anyway, I hope you have enjoyed this and got some value out of it. Please do like, share, subscribe. Let me know what you're feeling as we're moving into this most epic week. How are you feeling about it? What are you looking forward to? I always love hearing from you. So much love to you all. And we hold hands and walk forward together brilliantly. All right. Take care, everyone. Have a great one. And we'll see you soon. This is Irlianna, StarSound Speaks, StarSoundastrology.com. Namaste.